Welcome to Eco Africa. I'm Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria. Nearly 3/4 of the Earth's surface is covered by water. Our oceans and waterways are home to tens of thousands of species.
Today, we look at how we can protect these species and benefit from all they have to offer. I am Sandra Kahumza Twinovideo right here in Kampala, Uganda. Here is what we have coming up. Sustainable and safe. The women with a better way to harvest oysters in Gambia. Flourishing in the drought. Moroccan farmers save water and boost their yields. And thriving fish. Aquafarming in Africa's mighty Lake Victoria is providing job and food security. Let us begin though in South Africa. Tourists love the cute seals on Cape Town's trendy waterfront. But not many think about the important role these creatures play in under the water or how human activity is affecting them. This is a story about what can happen when we don't respect the wildlife around us and also what can be done to help.
This diver is not a tourist. She's on a rescue mission. One that needs a delicate hand if she's not to injure her target. One of a group of seals basking in the sun on the waterfront in Cape Town, South Africa. The diver has to poke through a gap between the boards in a specially designed platform to sever a loop strip of plastic that could have suffocated the seal. Mission accomplished.
From the seal's perspective, he's resting, he's lying there, he'll feel a tug on his neck, he'll get upset to the seal next to him and he'll lie down again. He doesn't even know there was a human involved.
Almost 2 million Cape fur seals live off the coasts of South Africa and Namibia. These highly intelligent animals can even make themselves at home in places like Cape Town. But the waters here are awash with plastic waste that poses a threat to the seals.
As a working harbour, there is risk of plastics ending up in the ocean. With our wind in Cape Town, it just throws everything in the ocean. So our sweeper boats, our team work really hard to scoop all that out as they discover it. We've also put nets that will allow for the water that comes down the drains to be captured and then collected and sorted and removed from the ocean.
But the team from the Two Oceans Aquarium still have to constantly take individual action, in this case, improvising with a fishing rod. In 2023, they freed 124 seals from plastic snares, although it's out at sea where the seals are at greater risk.
The majority of our entanglements that we remove from our seals are fishing related. So these are, we believe, to be outside of our harbour. Our seals interact with them when they swim out to forage at sea. They get noosed up in them and they get stuck with them and they return to our harbours entangled. A lot of these are box bands, fishing line, nylon cord, nylon braid. This is an example of one seal that had all 3 of these entanglement items attached. They had about 12 items removed from them, which is quite a phenomenal number.
The Cape fur seals play a vital role in the ecosystem off the coast of southern Africa. And they're a source of unending fascination for marine biologist and underwater photographer Danelle Wenzel, who's been diving with them for 10 years now. The animals are busy hunters, sometimes eating up to 1/10 of their own body weight in one day.
They are keystone species, meaning if you take them out, the whole ecosystem is under the verge of collapse. So they're top-down and bottom-down predators, meaning they feed on animals like fish and squid, keeping their populations in check, making sure they don't overbloom. As well as they are the prey for animals like sharks and orcas, meaning that they also help maintain the healthy shark population in our oceans.
But in a disturbing recent development, there have been a string of seal attacks on people, sometimes even on land, typically in response to being provoked. But why are the animals losing their fear of us? Scientific analysis of blood samples from such seals have revealed toxins traced back to a form of algae that blooms off the South African coast. The toxins can alter the animal's brain chemistry and make them more aggressive. In a separate development, seals have been testing positive for rabies.
We are working with a lot of stakeholders, and together we can in time figure out solutions, but at the moment it's just awareness of the disease.
While the causes remain unclear, underwater tourists need to be wary when the seals they encounter no longer seem just curious or playful. At Cape Town diving schools offering seal encounter tours, staff have already begun to adjust their safety precautions.
If we get to an area where seals are behaving in a strange way, we don't put divers in the water. And we're not diving immediately adjacent to the seal haulouts where we would previously encounter larger concentrations of seals. We're diving away from those areas.
The Cape Fur seal population has recovered since the 90s, thanks to a ban on commercial hunting in South Africa. As for the current conflicts, leaving the seals in peace certainly wouldn't do any harm.
Careless human activity has been affecting underwater life in other ways. Our next story takes us to Kenya and the world-famous Lake Victoria, which provides a livelihood for some 4 million people.
The problem is that overfishing has driven down fish stocks. Some people are trying out a different way to farm in the lake that is more sustainable than doing it on the land, and it's bringing other benefits too.
Today's catch has just arrived. Louise Makabe works as an agent with Juliet Fish Farms on Lake Victoria, Africa's largest freshwater lake. A mother of 3, she's glad to work for a company that believes in empowering women.
A privilege that I have in Juliet is the fact that we can sit, talk and share a meal with my bosses. In other companies, you're not allowed to voice your opinion.
The early hours of the morning are the best time to collect the fish. Ino Swere and his family founded Juliet Fish Farms over a decade ago. Today it's specialised in cage fish farming and selective breeding.
We've grown as a major hatchery, a leading hatchery in Kenya, producing 1.2 million fingerlings per month. When we started, we were doing 150,000 fingerlings a year.
Juliet Fish Farms grows primarily Nile tilapia, which is in growing demand. Crucially, it has a high tolerance to changes in water quality, which are governed by environmental factors. Information on water quality and other parameters such as fish stocks is provided by the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, which has an office on Lake Victoria.
We look at the environment and the organisms that live in it, and we monitor the environment, the water parameters, how they change over time and in space, and also we look at how that affects the fish and the people that depend on the lake for survival.
Over the years, the lake's fish stocks have been badly depleted by overfishing and illegal operations, dropping by 25% in the last decade. Aquaculture reduces the impact on the lake's biodiversity and also improves food security. In comparison, cage farming allows for better control of the production environment. The Institute identifies suitable species for aquaculture and also offers training to businesses focused on sustainable fish breeding.
You need to have people who understand the stocking densities, like how many fish you can have in a certain area, how to feed them, what type of food they need to grow, and also how do you manage diseases, because with crowding, it's a recipe for spread of disease.
Inoswere has a master's in aquaculture and recognised its potential early on. He now shares his expertise in an aquaculture academy, a training programme for aquapreneurs in East Africa. His company aims to have at least 60% female employees. The sector can drive social change in local communities, he believes.
We have women that we've changed their lives directly because a good number of our workforce are women. They get enough money for themselves and for their families, taking children to school. Some also have established other business besides just working for Juliet.
As an agent for the company, Louise Makabe is supplied with ice to keep the produce fresh. In the past, she got around with motorcycle taxis, but now she can use the company truck. She regularly delivers to 15 to 20 female market vendors. They too are earning well, thanks to Juliet's payment system.
In other companies, you pay cash on delivery. That's why they come to Juliet, because you get fish on credit.
A sustainable business model, a sustainable industry. Aquaculture is helping ensure that Lake Victoria can still provide millions of East Africans with a livelihood.
Water itself is a precious resource, of course, and with human-caused climate change affecting weather patterns, water is increasingly in short supply across North Africa. Farmers are having to get smart to cope with the ongoing drought. Here is one solution from Morocco that's helping to save water and boost the harvest.
Faiza Tazi's orchard is bearing fruit despite the drought in the northern Moroccan town of Meknes. The zucchini and onions are also growing beautifully, all with just a little water. For around 14 years, Faiza Tazi has been growing fruits and vegetables, always using drip irrigation, but she's often had unreliable results in terms of her harvest. With traditional watering, we cannot precisely observe the plant's condition. For example, one tree may have produced fruit, while the one right next to it has not. These are also still green and have fruits, but the other trees are damaged. With the help of a computerized system, Faiza Tazi can now water each type of plant precisely according to its needs. A sensor measures the soil moisture and sends the data directly to her mobile phone. The information is color-coded, so I can easily see the areas that need water and those that have had enough. So the device helps me ration my water. The system was designed by a startup in Safrou, not far from Meknes, that usually focuses on solar-powered systems for agriculture. Its inventor, Taha Idrisi, showed us the brains of the operation. We can get atmospheric data thanks to this small chip. It can tell us about temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure. By adjusting her irrigation amounts accordingly, Faiza Tazi says she has been able to reduce water consumption on the farm by around a third. Since I started using the device, I've realized that I need less water and fewer resources. It's very beneficial. It's financially beneficial too. In a year of service, the system has already paid off the investment of roughly 1,100 euros in the form of bountiful harvests.
Let's head now to Northern Europe, where some people say underwater farming holds a lot of promise. Of course, we don't mean just any old crop. Ocean seaweed can be used for fertilizer, packaging and cosmetics, and it's even considered a superfood. Like trees, seaweed store carbon dioxide and reduces the main green gas that's driving climate change. No wonder commercial seaweed harvesting is booming off the coast of Scotland.
Solutions to the climate crisis will take many forms, one of which is algae. That's according to chef Callum Munro. He comes down to the coast every other day to collect seaweed here on the Scottish Isle of Skye.
Do you do this every week then?
I do it maybe twice or 3 times a week actually. We come out, yeah. See this one here, which is, I would say up there with the best, is sea spaghetti. As you can tell why it's called sea spaghetti, because it just looks exactly like this. Again, it's quite a subtle flavour, but you can use it just as you would spaghetti.
Together with climate activist Shona Cameron, the two are trying to bring seaweed back into the kitchen. As a renewable alternative to fish and meat, seaweed is the vegetable of the sea and is available all year round. They're sharing these ideas with schools, armed with recipes for the children to learn.
How do we eat as humans change the climate? Seaweeds and bivalves were a huge part of culture here for centuries, millennia. People have eaten these species, but we've kind of lost touch with it a little bit. And how can we sort of reconnect people with that tradition?
Shona Cameron envisions the coast as a garden.
Somewhere that we can cultivate and use in a responsible way, and maybe how small-scale community enterprises could start to use it as a way to support their local economy.
Ian Matheson, too, wants to capitalize on the Isle of Skye seaweed by growing it. He's a trained fisherman, but for almost 2 years he's been farming seaweed as a side gig. It's more sustainable, he says. But first, he must find out which types grow best in these waters.
To begin with, we'll be using this for biostimulants, but we need to send off for testing first, see what kind of nutrients and minerals it has, and then once we've discovered that, we'll know what we want to do with it after that.
Ian Matheson and other entrepreneurs founded the farm on an area spanning 40 hectares.
We'll be putting in half the total farm area, and that should produce around 200 tonnes of kelp in the first year. And then the following year we'll put in the other half of the grid, so we'll be up to 400 tonnes.
In recent years, more and more kelp farmers have settled around the island. Some farms are already producing. The seaweed off Skye can grow to over 2 meters long, and that's completely fertilizer-free. Until now, processing has been the bottleneck, a gap in the market that Alison Baker is intent on filling. Her startup, Eco Cascade, is supported by the Scottish Government. They've just invested in a new shredding plant.
This seaweed is going to go into a research project for animal feed, but it's also, this particular variety of kelp is very good for biostimulants as a soil improver.
Alison Baker and her colleagues alike are banking on the small industry's potential to grow quickly. But so far, large-scale commercial uptake has been slower than expected.
We want to be able to process a lot of seaweed that can go onto a commercial market because that will promote the growth of the industry, because farmers will be able to grow to order, they'll be able to increase the size of their farms and grow more seaweed.
People just have to get used to it, rediscover it, says chef Callum Monroe.
Think about it like any other vegetable, any other thing, but it just grows in the sea. But yeah, there's a definite maybe shift in mentality that might need to happen, but hopefully with more people trying the seaweed salads and things like that, it will become more normal.
The sea is truly a treasure, and seaweed farming might just go some way towards saving it.
Another very popular underwater crop with an important ecological function is oysters. Our next report brings us back to Gambia on the western tip of Africa. Its Atlantic coastline has an abundance of these prized shellfish.
Oyster harvesting in Gambia is usually done by women, but it can be hard and dangerous. So it was great to meet a team of women who were working hard to make oyster harvesting not only sustainable, but safer as well.
Oysters flourish in mangrove forests. At high tide, the mangrove roots are covered by the water. The oysters attach themselves and grow in peace, nourished by algae. Marie Demba and her fellow oyster farmers were inspired by this natural symbiosis when they set up their oyster farms on the Gambian coast. Their constructions use bamboo sticks and oyster shells to imitate natural conditions.
We take the oyster cells itself to go and process new farms like bamboo rods, and we tie them with bamboos inside the sea, the river side. So it will bring whereby this small oyster can just attach onto it. As it takes time, it becomes a big oyster.
Around 8 months, in fact. The farm outside the village of Kartong is near the banks of a tidal river, so it's relatively easy to keep an eye on the oysters. The women used to go into the mangrove forests to harvest wild oysters, which they rarely do today. Wild oysters are harder to collect. They are smaller and it damages the trees in the process. What's more, tidal swells can make it very dangerous for the women. For Marie Dembe, the new farming technique only has advantages.
When it is time to harvest, you just cut the rope. You put it inside your basket, then you come out with it. You boil it, and then start the process.
Marie Dembe is one of 30 women in the community who have set up 2 farms. They always work together and also share the harvests. First, the women cook the oysters, then they remove the meat. Oyster farming is part of a 5-year food and agriculture organization project that ends in 2025. It is designed to give people here sustainable sources of income. Until now, coastal inhabitants have often encroached on the mangroves for fishing and logging. Scientific studies have shown the crucial ecological role that mangrove forests play.
Mangroves are one of the most vulnerable tree species around the world. And obviously, the loss of mangroves is going to have a huge effect on the biodiversity within the forest, the ozone estuary. One of the impacts we are going to have is that mangroves, they contribute in sequestering carbon. So when we lose the mangroves, it means we are going to have more greenhouse effects.
Reducing carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere will slow global warming. That's why a sustainable relationship with mangroves is vital. Oyster aquaculture farms haven't yet caught on in Gambia, but the hope is that word of mouth will boost interest in this high-value harvest. The project also includes regular training for the women involved, be it setting up the farm or how to sell the oysters. And they have access to a solar-powered freezer to store their produce.
We need at least some capacity building so that they can have the socio-economic benefit of what the trade they are doing, because there are benefits to it. But unfortunately, because the system is not that much organized, they don't know. But the industry is a lucrative industry.
The women not only benefit from the project, they also give something back by planting mangrove seedlings.
Others plant trees, but we are more focused on mangroves. Whilst harvesting oysters, we pay attention to the mangroves. From time to time, we also go round to find out if people are cutting them or not.
The women of Kartong have learned another cultivation method in which the oysters grow in net bags. By using aquacultures instead of exploiting the mangroves, the women not only protect the local environment, they are building their own livelihoods. Their oyster farms have another wider benefit.
We will have to take charge of our destiny by ensuring that these oysters are reared, in conditions that are suitable to us. It is going to help in improving the production as well, and then we will be able to feed ourselves with the fish and aquaculture products that we want. So obviously, aquaculture is the future for self-sufficiency.
As for Marie Dembe and the other women, they can already do more than just feed themselves and their families.
The oyster business is very nice. From you have your home consumption, we pay school fees, we others bought land for themselves, we took it for home consumption. Yeah, so it is a very good business.
The Katong Oyster Project is a good example of how environmental protection can succeed if the people affected by it also benefit.
If you liked that story, or if anything else in the show caught your imagination, then please write to us at echo@dw.com. Would love to hear what you think. Now, it is a goodbye from me, Sandra Kahumza Twinobdio, right here in Kampala, Uganda.
And from me, Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to head to Eco Africa Online for more inspiring stories. See you all again next time.